Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay, so here, this is an ikhtilaf fi masala. What substance can you use to do tayammum? So what does the Quran say? Remember, we always try to bring it back to the Quran. The Quran says, فَتَيَمَّمُوا سَعِيدًا. Yeah, Sa'id is a specific term that's used for the earth, ground. But this term includes lots of things. Because if you say the word Sa'id, this can be inclusive of soil, sand, rocks, stones, anything that's basically from the earth. So this is why on one side you have three positions here. On one side you have Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Muhammad. On the other side, you have Imam Shafi, and in the middle you have Imam Abu Yusuf. Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Muhammad, they say you can do tayammum with anything which is from the genus of the earth. Yeah, anything that's from the genus of the earth. And the way the fuqaha define that, they say any sort of substance from the earth which, if put in fire, will not burn, nor will it contour, nor will the contours of it change. Will it become manipulated, twist, bend. So this is basically the criteria that they use for earth. So if you put wood into a fire, what happens? Burns. You can't do tayammum with that. Yeah, but rock, stone, brick, anything like that, you can do tayammum with it. According to Imam Shafi rahimahullah, he says you can only do tayammum with soil. That's it. Yeah, you can only do it with soil. You can't even do it with sand. Soil only. According to Imam Abu Yusuf, he says you can do it with soil and you can do it with sand as well. You ever got that? That's basically the ikhtilaf. Three that we have here. Okay, so وَيَجُوزُ التَّيَمُّمْ عِنْدَ أَبِي حَنِيفَةَ وَمُحَمَّدٍ لِبِكُلِّ مَا كَانَ مِنْ جِنْسِ الْأَرْضِ. Tayammum is permissible according to Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Muhammad with anything that is from the genus of the earth. كَالتُّرَابِ, like soil. وَالرَّمَلْ, ramal means sand. Yeah, so when you go to the beach, that's called ramal. وَالْحَجَرْ, hajar means stone. So if you have a piece of stone at home, like a rock, you can do tayammum on there. وَالْجِسْ, or jis and jis, this is a type of like chalk, yeah, gypsum. One nura or naura, which is a kind of limestone, which is like a chalk. Wal kuhl, so kuhl, the one that you put in your eyes, that's actually a rock that's powdered down. Yeah, and zirnich, arsenic. So in them days they never know the poisonous effects of arsenic, so they just mentioned it because that's an example they knew of. So anything like that, you can imagine anything that comes from the earth substance, yeah. Okay, so like marble, like if you got marble fireplace, if there's nothing on there, if there's no layer on there like sort of varnish or anything that's stopping your hand from touching the marble itself, then you can do tayammum on there. Yeah.
Baked bricks stuff.
Yeah, you can't do it on baked bricks. Yeah, baked bricks you can't do it because that's actually been put through fire. So something that's been put through fire, you can't because it's actually baked bricks is clay with water in there and it's put through fire. If it's unbaked bricks, if it hasn't been put through fire, then it's fine.
Same thing with tarmac.
Tarmac as well, you can't do tarmac.
So even though it's been years, dust is accumulated on top.
Dust is different. That's gonna come. The issue of dust is gonna come. We're talking about anything that's from the genus of the earth. So you can't do it on. If the slabs in your garden are like slabs that are made from cement that's been put into a mold, that's fine then. But if it's been put through fire in any of the process, you can't use it. Yeah, so it has to be like a rock or stone or sand or something like that. Okay. Now, قال أبو يوسف لا يجوز إلا بالتراب والرمل. So he says turab, soil, and ramal, and sand. قال الشافعي لا يجوز إلا بالتراب المنبت. So turab al-munbit means turab that has, it's like, it's not wet, it's not moist, dusty. It's got to be dry. Yes, it has to be dry. وهو رواية عن أبي يوسف, and this is also an opinion of Imam Abu Yusuf as well. In other words, Imam Shafi's opinion is also shared by Imam Abu Yusuf in one place. So Imam Abu Yusuf technically has two opinions. One of the opinions is with turab and ramal, and the other opinion is just with turab. What's the reason for this? What's their reason, Imam Shafi's and Imam Abu Yusuf's? لقوله تعالى فَتَيَمَّمُوا سَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. So Sa'id and Tayyib. Sa'id means earth and Tayyib. So they interpret this as a turaban mumbitan. So Sa'id they translate as turab, because commonly the Arabs would say to themselves, this is Sa'id, this is. Yeah. Ja'alnahu Sa'idan. Like Allah says in the Quran, we made into Sa'id. So they interpret it as soil. And this is why it's very important, the meanings of words in the Quran or in Hadith. You need to understand how they were used at the time of the Sahaba. It's very, very important for that, because as time goes by, the meanings of words change over time. And by them changing over time, it can have an effect on your understanding of Islam. So you have to understand how the Quran uses this word, and then you have to understand how many individuals are included in this word in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Make sense? Like for example, if you have the word undertaker, so undertaker, not the wrestler. Undertaker refers to the person who, puts the body in the ground and covers it up, digs the. But in the olden days, the term undertaker was used for the person who used to do or undertake all the services in the graveyard. Yeah. So the person who used to take care of all these affairs over there used to be known as the undertaker of services. But as time went by, the meanings of words they change. So this is why relying on handswear and these kind of dictionaries is not a good idea, because handswear only gives you a meaning of today's time, in past 100 years. They don't really give you classical meanings, so you can make big mistakes. So anyway, so this is why there's ikhtilafs in fiqh masail, because of wording. So they translate Sa'idan as turab and Tayyiban as mumbitan. Yeah. Where did they get this from? Qalahu Ibn Abbas. So Ibn Abbas was a mufassir of the Quran. Who better to ask regarding meanings of the Quran than Ibn Abbas? So Ibn Abbas, in one interpretation, he says Sa'idan Tayyiban means Turaban Mumbitan. Now you see, one thing you have to understand about Quran translation is this. When Sahaba give their opinion about a meaning of the Quran, does this Sahabi's translation or does this Sahabi's interpretation mean that it is the final say in the ayah and no one else can say anything else? Not necessarily. So when a Sahabi mentions a meaning of an ayah or a word or even a group of ayahs, that may be his own interpretation of it. Yeah, and he might be just giving an interpretation to make people understand. Like for example, let's say there were children who were sitting in front of me, and I'm trying to explain a verse of the Quran to them. The wording I would use would be words that that resonates with them. They can understand. So if that same interpretation was taken and it was transferred, and someone else said, "Oh, Ustad, the other day when he translated this word, he said like this," so that wouldn't be correct, because I didn't intend it as a final translation or interpretation of that verse. I meant it as a way of trying to explain to them. Does that make sense? So this is one thing you need to remember about Sahaba's interpretations. غير أن أبا يوسف, however, Imam Abu Yusuf زاد عليه الرمل بالحديث. So Imam Abu Yusuf, he says the Quran says Sa'id, so he takes Sa'id as Turab, but he says there's a hadith. What's the hadith? الذي رويناه. What was the hadith رويناه? The hadith that we mentioned about the man or the people that came to the Prophet ﷺ, and they asked the Prophet ﷺ about we live in a land where we hardly get water for a month or two. Can we do, what should we do? So he said, alaykum bi ardikum. Yes, arrawaynahu. Now, if you look in the footnotes, there's a whole discussion on this hadith itself. Yeah, he discusses this hadith and mentions that this hadith in this exact wording, alaykum bi ardikum, this hadith is actually not established. So, what do we do there then? So here again you have to understand an important point when it comes to Hidayah. First of all, Imam Hidayah, he was not a muhaddith. So Imam Hidayah would not go into the intricacies of hadith like other scholars would. Okay? That's the first thing to understand. The second thing to understand is this. When it comes to fiqh, the fuqaha were not too concerned about the details of hadith. They were more concerned about the fiqhi rulings that were passed down. So sometimes what used to happen was this. A fiqhi ruling is passed down to from Sahaba to Tabi'in, to Tabi'in. Everyone knows that masala, because it's just been passed down 2 generations. So So Imam Hanifa knows it, Imam Malik knows it, and they know it. And then later scholars come, they want to know, is there any hadith to support this fact? It's a fact already, people knew it at that time, but the later scholars just want to know, is there a hadith to support this? Sometimes they might not find a hadith. Okay, they might not find a hadith. But just because they can't find a hadith does not mean that fiqh ruling is not established. Does that make sense? So one of the mistakes some people make is they try to look at the madhab through Bukhari or through Muslim or through Abu Dawood, and if they can't find a valid hadith, they'll say, oh, the madhab made a mistake. Does that make sense? So we don't use hadith to validify fiqh statements. Fiqh statements are already valid. Later fuqaha only used hadith to support, just to strengthen the point, to show people that look, that there is examples for this. And the best example, like I told you, for this is Tirmidhi. So Imam Tirmidhi, what he'll do, he'll bring a hadith, and then at the end of the hadith, he will say, this is a weak hadith, هذا حديث غريب, it's a weak hadith. But then after a few lines, he will say, وَعَلَيْهِ أَكْثَرُ الصَّحَابَةِ, most of the Sahabas used to act upon this. So what does that mean? It means that the practice was there already in the society. And Imam Tirmidhi just wants to show you, I have no other hadith to be able to prove this. But all I can say to you is, Sahaba used to do this, Tabi'in used to do this, etc. And here's the closest hadith I can find to support this. And it's weak. Does that make sense? So that's an important point to remember. Now, if you want to, for example, go through Hidayah, and you want to try to find anyone who's done a detailed discussion on the hadith of Hidayah, there's a book available. Yeah, the book is called Nasb al-Raya. Yeah, Nasb al-Raya is by Imam Zayla'i. It was written about 100 or 200 years after Imam Hidayah. It's about 100 years after Imam Hidayah. And a scholar, he's known as Imam Zayla'i. There's two Zayla'is. There's one who was the commentator of Kanz al-Daqaiq, not him. This is another one, Imam Zayla'i. So he's done a whole detailed, it's about 6 volumes book. 6 volumes. He's gone through all the narrations in Hidayah, and he's discussed them in great detail. Yeah, so it's one of the core books for any student who wants to become an expert in hadith studies. So if you want to become an expert in hadith studies, it's one of the books that they recommend for you to study. Nasb al-Raya. So anyway, so if you read this footnotes here, he actually mentions that even though this particular hadith that Imam Hidayah has quoted is not a strong hadith, there is another hadith out there which supports this. Yeah, so you can read that yourselves. Anyway, what do Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Muhammad say? So they say, وَلَهُمَا أَنَّ السَّعِيدِ اسْمٌ لِوَجْهِ الْأَرْضِ. Now look, they look into in a more detailed linguistic meaning now. Look, you know, if I say this to you, if I say to you, what does mobile mean? What do you say to me? Phone, isn't it? Yeah? See, that's a interpretation of the word according to the social usage of it. So the society uses that word, in other words, mobile. If you say mobile, what comes to your mind? Samsung, iPhone, this, and the electronic gadget that people use to communicate with each other. But really, if you go deep into the meaning of mobile, what does it mean? Yeah, something which is not fixed in one place. Something that's not fixed in one place that can be moved around is known as a mobile. Yes? So before mobile phones, when we used to hear the word mobile, I used to think of a caravan. Yeah, this is a mobile. That was the mobile them days. But then when mobiles came about, it took over. So this is what happens sometimes. So Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Muhammad is an expert in the Arabic language, and he was an expert in Nahu. He was actually an Imam of Nahu. And the only reason he didn't have his madhab in Nahu was because he was busy in fiqh. Yeah, and his contemporaries became Imams of Nahu, like Imam Kasai. It was at his time. So anyway, so Imam Abu Hanifa Muhammad said, you know the word Sa'id, it comes from the root letters Sad, Ain, Dal. What does Sad, Ain, Dal mean? Anything which is on the top. Sa'ada, to go up, to elevate. So they say, when Allah calls the earth Sa'id, what does it mean? Sa'id, you call the earth Sa'id when you're talking about the crust of the earth, the surface of the earth. So if you dig deep into the earth, we know now that you can go deep and deep and deep and deep. But the crust of the earth, the top part of the earth, which includes sand, soil, rocks, marble, yeah, all these things, even precious diamonds, precious stones, they come under that as well. Yeah. So it says lahuma anna Sa'id ismun li wajhi al-ard. The word Sa'id is a term, a name given to the face of the earth, the top surface of the earth. Why is it called that? Summiya bihi. Allah has called it this li su'udihi, because it's gone to the top. It's the top part. So this is why, like in the Quran, there's this famous ikhtilaf of mufassirin, that in the Quran, are there any synonyms in the Quran? Yeah, are there any synonymous words in the Quran? Or is every word used in its precise usage? So there's one group of scholars who says yes, there is synonyms. Like you can say alhamdu means shukr or thana. And another group of scholars say no. Every word in the Quran has a specific usage which cannot be used for anything else. Yeah, so this seems to be indicating towards that. Lisu'udihi. Okay, so we've explained the word Sa'id, where this comes from. Next, what about tayyib? So Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Muhammad, their understanding is the word tayyib can have two possible usages, meanings. Like if you look in the Quran how tayyib is used, either tayyib is used for something that's clean, yeah, halalan tayyiban, halal food that's clean, not dirty food, yeah, tahir. So what tayyib yahtamilu tahira, it's possible that the word tayyib can mean tahir. Okay, that's fine. If that's the case, then what does it mean? Then it means you can only do taymmum with ground that's clean. So therefore, look at this. Imagine someone urinates on soil in your garden. A child urinates. After a few days, what happens to that urine? Yeah, it absorbs. The smell goes away. You can't do tayammum with that. You can pray on it because it's gone. The smell's gone now. All signs of it is gone. But because that soil has been contaminated with urine, you can't do tayammum on there because it's not tayyib. If Allah had just said in the Quran, فَتَيَمَّمُوا سَعِيدًا, you could have done tayammum. Because He said tayyiban, you can't do now. Make sense? Okay, so وَالطَّيِّبْ يَحْتَمِلُ الطَّاهِرِ فَهُمِلَ عَلَيْهِ. In that case, it's given that meaning. It's interpreted as that. Why? Because under what theme does the term tayammum fall under? It falls under purity, isn't it? Purification. So therefore, tayammum fits in with purification. Does that make sense? So he says, لِأَنَّهُ أَلْيَقُ, because this is more suitable or fitting, بِمَوْضِئِ الطَّهَارَةِ. Yeah, so cleanliness fits in with tahara. So out of all the usages of tayyib, tahir makes more sense here. Or, he says, or we can say the word tayyib, through ijma' of the scholars, tayyib means clean. So even though tayyib can have multiple meanings in the Quran as well, here it means clean. Oh, huwa muradun bil ijma'. Either way, tayyib means clean. Whether you look at the linguistic meaning of it or the ijma' meaning of it. Everyone understand that? So this is their position on that. Okay, next. Now, the next question that comes here is, does there need to be any dust on the rock itself? So obviously soil has dust, sand has dust, that makes sense. But what about if you have a piece of marble, big slab of marble? Does there need to be dust on it or not? So ثم لا يشترط أن يكون عليه غبار عند أبي حنيفة. According to Imam Hanifa, he says there does not need to be a condition of dust. Why is this? لإطلاق ما تلونا. So the verse of the Quran is what? فَتَيَمَّمُوا سَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. So the word Sa'id here, if Allah wanted to restrict this and say you can only do tayammum with something that has dust on it, He would have said Sa'idan مغبرا or ذا غبار or فيه غبار or something of those terms. He would have used that. And Imam Hanifa has an usul that you guys have learnt in usul fiqh, which is al-mutlaq yajri ala itlaqi. If in the Quran Allah says something without any conditions attached to it, we have to take it like that. Does that make sense? For example, like Allah says in the Quran to a woman that, وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ. Let them place their headscarves on their chests. So here, what do we say? Can we add the condition of the color of that scarf? No, you can't. So it being black or it being a dark in color is not from the Quran, nor is it from the Sunnah. So we cannot add to the Quran an extra condition. Yes, if a woman prefers, if it's preferred by people to wear dark colors, fine. But you can't say to someone this is necessary, because otherwise we're going against what the Quran is saying. You have to keep the Quran in its pristine form. Yeah, you can't tamper with it. So if you add anything to the Quran, what you're doing is you're tampering with Allah's words, and you can't do that. So if you make something fard which Allah has not made fard, you're putting yourself in the lawgiver's position, which you don't have permissibility to do so. Make sense? So like this, many of the things that we kind of do on a daily basis, the restrictions that we put on things, if we put it on a level of fard and wujub, then it's wrong days. Yeah, you got to leave it as is. So this is why here as well, Imam Hanifa says, look, Quran does not say to ghubar, so therefore لإطلاق ما تلونه المطلق يجري على إطلاقه. Everyone got that? Okay. Now, okay, let's look at the other way now. Imagine someone has in their room, some places you open the window and you come back in the evening and everything has dust on there. Yeah, there's lots of dust blowing outside. So can you do tayammum on dust? So dust is not soil, it's not sand, it's not. Can you do tayammum on dust? So he says, كَذَا يَجُوزُ بِالْغُبَارِ. You are likewise, it's permissible to do tayammum with ghubar. مَعَ الْقُدْرَةِ, despite being able ala Sa'id in the Abi Hanifa Muhammad. So even though in your garden you have sand or rock or whatever, and you want to do tayammum on dust, is that allowed? Yes, it's allowed. Why is this for? Because لِأَنَّهُ تُرَابٌ رَقِيقٌ. Ultimately, what is sand? What is dust in your house? It's fine sand, isn't it?
Wasn't it left over skin?
Yes, that's another question. In today's times, like in our kind of houses, what is the majority of the dust that collects on top of cupboards and these places? Is it not? Depends where you live. Depends where you live, end of the day. Yeah, so you could be, let's say for example, sometimes you go on holiday, you lock the door. Whose dead skin is there? Yeah. Whose dead skin is it? Yeah. So then obviously when you come home and there's dust on everything, then obviously there's just dust that flies around in the sky. Yes, a lot of the scientists do say that a lot of dust in the house is due to dead skin, but you have to look at the situation. And the reason I'm saying this is because sometimes what tends to happen is we give like a general ruling over everyone just because we've come to a conclusion regarding a specific scenario. You can't do that. So you have to look at your situation, where you are in the world. If you're in an area environment that has dust in there, if there's no dust in there, you look at all these things before we give a judgment. لأنه تراب رقيق. But what I would say is it's best to avoid, for example, like using the dust on top of your cupboard. Even though it could be a mixture of dust. You only need a small amount of dust, by the way, to do tayammum. You don't need handfuls of dust. Just a small amount of dust. So it's better to use, like in our kind of conditions, it's better to use like marble or something like that, rather than going for that. Make sense? Okay, next. Now, here is a big issue that is raised against the Hanafis. This is a famous issue, this is. What about niyyah? Do you have to make niyyah in tayammum, yes or no? What did we say about niyyah in wudu?
No.
Niyyah in wudu is? Why?
Because water generally is used to clean.
No.
It's like that,
What's the no?
Because not in the ayah, so you can't add to it. If something's not in the Quran, you can only edit the rulings of the Quran at the level of fard and haram if you have a hadith which is mutawatir, mashhur. Anything you have below that, you can't do it. So the question now comes, according to Hanafis, why do they say that making a niyyah in tayammum is necessary? A niyyah to fardun fi tayammum. Now you see, Imam Zufar has taken the position of wudu. He says, just like it's not necessary in wudu, it's not necessary in tayammum. Why is that? قال زفر ليس بفرد لأنه خلف عن الوضوء. Because tayammum, you only resort to tayammum when you can't do wudu. So it's as though tayammum is a substitute of wudu. And the substitute has to fulfill all the conditions of the thing being substituted for. The mubdal minhu. So this is why he says لأنه تيمم is خلف عن الوضوء فلا يخالفه في وصفه. And hence the tayammum cannot fall short of any conditions that are not found in wudu. So la yukhalifu means it can't go against its description. Description meaning the conditions that are attached to it. Now, how do we answer this now? It's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah, or do we just make up stuff as we go along? Is that how the Hanafis do things? So how do we answer this? So first of all, look, the way we answer is two ways that the fuqaha have answered this. First of all, you know, the tayammum and wudu, what's the biggest difference between the two? Okay, one is fluid, liquidy, one is dry, yeah? Okay, that's one difference. Give me another difference.
One cleans.
One cleans, as in?
Water.
Yeah, water is used for cleaning things normally. Everyone knows water for cleaning. And the other one isn't known as for cleaning, it's actually known for making things dirty. Make sense? So this is why whenever you compare two things together, there has to be strong resemblance between the two. If there is strong differences between the two, then you can't compare the rules of each one with the other. So this is why we say, look, because one is used as water, when you clean with water, because it's a natural cleanser, you don't need intention. Like for example, let's say child urinated on the floor in the kitchen. Yeah, you just have to get water and clean it. Right? You don't need no intention for cleaning it, it becomes clean. Make sense? So because something is a natural cleanser, there is no need for an extra intention for cleaning it. And because turab is not a normal cleanser, but Allah has called it a cleanser, a purifier. Therefore, it only becomes a purifier when there's a need for it. So how does it become a cleanser? When you make an intention. Does that make sense? Yeah. So look at this. So he says, okay, that's one meaning. Second meaning is this. Look, this is like a more stronger meaning. You know the word tayammum. If you remember in the first, when we started tayammum, what did I say? Tayammum means to intend. Wala amin al bayt al haram. Amma ya'ummu means to intend. So therefore, the word tayammum contains in the Quran the meaning intention. So therefore, if the Quran says intention, therefore we have to consider it to be fard. So look, lana, we say, annahu yumbi'u an al-qasd. Now the word tayammum gives the meaning of intention. فَلَا يَتَحَقَّقْ دُونَهُ. And hence, tayammum cannot occur without it. Without it meaning, without intention, qasd. Yeah, because if the word tayammum means intention, it's like Allah saying to you, do tayammum with intention. So the Quran is telling us to do tayammum with intention. So it's fard. Oh, ju'ilat tahuran. Or the tayammum, the sand has been made a tahur, a purifier, fi halatin makhsusatin, in a specific scenario. What's that? The lack of ability to use water. Wal ma'u tahurun binafsihi. And water by nature, it's a purifier on its own. Ala ma marra, according to what has passed already. Make sense? So this is why, sometimes people, they draw like a conclusion between two things, a similar between two things, but it's wrong, and it happens a lot. For example, like, let's say someone says to you that because a woman has to cover her head in salat, she should cover her head when she's reading Quran as well. Yeah? Because a woman has to cover her head in salat, she should cover her head in when reading Quran as well. You see that similarity that drew between the two? What's wrong with it? Why can't salat be compared to recitation of Quran? Huh? Okay, salat is fard. Okay, what about nafil salat? You can go on.
They don't resemble each other.
Like how? What thing is there in salat which is not found in recitation of Quran? Yeah, ruku, sujood, what? Takbir, facing qibla. Yeah, purification, having to cover your entire body. Does that make sense? Yeah, so this is why we say that look, you cannot put the same restrictions on salat onto reciting Quran, because there's a difference between the two. You can read Quran without wudu. Yeah, from your heart. You can recite it without wudu. Like you don't touch the Quran. So this is why this is known as qiyas ma al-fariq. This is known as qiyas, where resemblance is made, but there's a big difference between the two things. Yeah, so you can't compare them. Sometimes in our minds we might think to ourselves, but aren't they both ibadah? Yes, They're both ibadah, but just because they're both ibadah, that is not enough resemblance for us to carry the ruling from one to the other. Make sense? Okay. Right, next. ثم إذا نوى الطهارة أو استباح صلاتنا. Now, what kind of intention do you have to make? So when you're doing taymmum, we'll just finish on this one because the next masala is quite long. I'll explain a few things. When you're doing your taymmum, what intention do you have to make? So number one, you can either make intention that you want to purify your body. So when you do taymmum, why are you doing it for? So you're doing it because you want to be pure. Or number two, you can do intention of tayammum for salat being permissible for you. Like it's Fajr time, okay, and the water is too cold to use, you get ill. So you're going to do tayammum now. Why are you doing tayammum for Fajr time? What's the reason? Pray Fajr in it. So that's it. So you can either make an intention for, for this, or you can make intention for that. Both are fine. إذا نوى طهارة أو استباحة الصلاة. Yeah, salat to become permissible. أجزاءه, it suffices him. ولا يشترط نية التيمم لحدث أو للجنابة. You don't have to make this intention that I am in the state of hadath, so I make intention for hadath, or I am in the state of janaba. No, any tayammum you make will be counted for both. Yeah, counted for both. هو الصحيح من المذهب. This is the sahih min al-madhhab, means this, that in the Hanafis there is an ikhtilaf. Some say that if you're in a state of janaba, you have to make an intention that you're in a state of janaba. And some Hanafis say that if you're in a state of hadath, you got to make a state of hadath. But Imam Hidayah doesn't agree with that opinion, and he says the more preferred opinion of the madhab means the Hanafi position. Yeah. Why did they say this for? Because we don't have any early opinions from Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Abu Yusuf, Imam Muhammad. We don't have anything. They haven't said anything about this. Later scholars have differed about this. Have you got that? So this is something that happens. A lot of what we study in Hidayah, by the way, like Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Muhammad and Imam Yusuf, they didn't come out with this dalil. These dalils that we study, a lot of them is not from them. It's actually from their students or students. So they will be the ones who will come up with the dalils. Maybe they'll say, we heard it in the dars. Or maybe what they'll try and do is they'll try and attach a dalil that they understood to that. Does that make sense? So imagine like the Hanafi madhab being like a set of laws that have been written down by Imam Muhammad and others. Set of laws. Some of them have dalils attached to them, but a lot of them don't. And then what happens is the later Hanafis, they accept the laws as they are, but now they want to find dalils to support them. Does that make sense? Yeah. So just like, for example, the law of the country. Imagine someone gives you a book of the law of UK, and now they don't give any reasons for each law. So you as a student want to find out from yourself, in your own research, why they chose this as a law and what's the reasoning for it. So if you attach anything in the footnotes and then your later students come, they will read that book understanding that the original law didn't have any proofs with it. It was the later that came and added the proofs. Does that make sense?